Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of People Led Show, where I'm interviewing CHROs from Southeast Asia region. My name is Pawan Rochwani, and in this episode, I have the opportunity to interview Ivy, who's the VP of People and Culture at Acquire BPO. She's also one of the most talented and popular HR leaders from Philippines, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to speak to her today on this episode. She's somebody who promotes and talks a lot about the importance of diversity and inclusion and even sustainability in the workforce. She also very prominently talks about positive workplace culture and the strategies of implementing great employee engagement within organizations. She is also somebody who is at the forefront of implementing technology within the HR function. And if you listen till the end of this conversation, you'll understand and know her perspective and philosophy of how an HR leader should be. So feel free to share any comments or suggestions that you might have after you listen to this episode. I had a great time speaking to Ivy, and I hope you all will also enjoy this conversation. Super. Ivy, thank you so much for taking out the time to do this conversation with us. I
My
know
pleasure.
we missed meeting in person at PMAP, but I'm glad that we are doing this. And to begin the conversation, and this is something that I ask all my guests because I want to know them who are they outside of work as well, and not just about what they do as a HR leader. So tell us about what do you do outside of work? What are you doing when you're not working or when you're not at office?
All right. So when I am not in the office, I am actually, well, 24 by 7. I am a mom of two beautiful children. I have a boy and a girl. And of course, I am happily married to a fantastic person who's been with me for like 20 years already. You might watch this and correct me that it's been. Yeah, I know that's 20 years, right? And other than that, I am also someone very much interested in anything aesthetics. So I have keen interest in designing bags. I construct leather bags, you know, and just anything that I feel like I can actually do as a project. I make belts sometimes, I create box out of leather sometimes, just really depends on the materials that I have. And I'm also interested in interior designing. Other than that, I'm also a fitness enthusiast. So I am someone who works out regularly. I have a fitness coach. I count calories. I know, bummer, right? But I do that year round, not as a New Year's resolution. And I also love traveling, reading, and shopping.
Wow. Before I know I have to gather a lot of this information, but before I miss out, so there's a town in India which is for all leather products, and it's like an entire town for all leather products that they make, right from bags
You
or
have to
shoes
tell
or
me the name of this town. What
yes.
is the name of this town?
I'll send you this details, and if ever you're making a trip to India, that's definitely the place that you should go to. So
Yes,
I'll tell
I've
you that.
definitely messaged you. I should make a trip.
Super. So glad to know that, and all the things that you do outside of work as well. And before we get into all the set of questions, and this is going to be an interesting conversation. But I want to start with what is one thing that other organizations or HR leaders should learn from the people culture that you're building at Acquire. Like, what's something unique about your organization and the people culture that maybe others could learn from or just adapt?
The one thing I'm always an advocate of, and I really carried it with me and brought it to life here in Acquire and with other organizations as well that I joined. You can say that's my trademark, is to be a real HR business partner. The principle is simple. I am a business leader wearing the hat of an HR person.
Hmm.
In that, what you see is in this leadership role in human resources, every HR leader should understand how the organization makes money
Yeah.
and what its mission is.
Yeah.
Next to that, it needs to understand the goals of the business, right? What is the strategy? And what is equally important to the client, the customers of the company. In
Yeah.
plain and simple terms, HR should learn how to follow the money. And that sounds different. I
Yeah.
recognize that because I'm supposed to be a people person, and believe you or and me, I am. My philosophy is coming from the fact that if the business does not thrive, people will lose their jobs. If the business does not develop, people will not have the opportunity to earn more, to be more, to do more, to achieve more. Therefore, somebody has to ensure that that is taken care of. And that intersection, right, of human capability and having that environment where that capability comes back to a hardworking person, right, in
Yeah.
terms of compensation, fulfillment, right, is something that an HR person should be a caretaker of.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, like, they should also know what's going on the business side and not just be at the people function. I think that's
100%.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure like a lot of organizations are probably trying to adapt to this, but is it happening in reality? That's like a question, because the word HRBP itself has business in it. But are we really, understanding the business aspect of it? I think that's a question mark, and probably people can adapt that and learn from your culture.
I understand why you are asking this question. In many conferences that I attend, I kid you not, when almost always, whenever I get to speak with a business owner, I always get asked the question, how can I find an HR person who really understands my business? Of course, stated in so many ways, but that's the gist. In fact, I remember there was this one German guy, he owns the business. And he's saying, I've been here in the Philippines for more than a decade, but it's very rare that I get to meet someone who speaks my language and even better, actually considers what's important to my customers. This HR business partner or HR business partnership moves from being a concept and a word to being real. If we make it real, it's in our actions, it's in what happens here in our heads. The frame of mind should be the business, right? Of course, at the very core of it is the people interest. But things happen twice, right? First, it happens in your head, and then next, you act on it. So it has got to be here, and you have got to actually live it every day.
Yeah.
That's how it becomes real.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And tell me, what are, let's say, two dilemmas or questions that you are currently solving, or like the year 2024 has in store for you as the VP of people and culture? Like, what are some things that you're like trying to solve in this year?
All right. So there are two things that come to mind. That's a great question, by the way, because there are many problems, but we have finite resources, right? Finite energy, finite hours, right, at work. So we need to actually select in order of importance,
Yeah.
right? And for me, my choice is the problems I would like to solve for are two things. One is productivity. And it's really ensuring that we are working as we should, right? And through time with our mastery, doing more with less. So on.
Yeah.
And second, and that comes with performance, right? High performance, productivity, and performance. And second is getting that human centric approach right. In particular, I'm talking about redesigning hybrid work arrangement in the workplace. Because we moved from that, for some organizations, being a taboo prior to the pandemic. There were a lot of organizations that weren't even talking about, they weren't entertaining the idea, right, of
Yeah.
work from home. And then the pandemic happened, and you know what? The only choices that we had then was to work from home, right? Or not work. Um, choice was obvious, right? And so we had to do it. We had to learn it overnight. And there were a lot, I remember, of case studies, right? Big universities, very scholarly researches that immediately after the pandemic had said, we have proven that productivity doesn't really suffer even if employees were home. But is that still true today, 2, 3 years after the pandemic? There are new researches that would tell you, podcasts that would tell you it doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like it was something new for many people, right?
Yeah.
And we had that extra energy because we all wanted to survive. We
Yeah.
needed to get out of the woods. We need to make this work. And then we become comfortable with something that we've been enjoying for so long, right? Malls are now open, even on extended hours. Beach resorts are open. The airlines are back with their promotions, although it's more expensive now to travel. But that's probably for another topic, another day, right? Um, but people started to go out. And so now if you talk actually to officers of businesses, the truth is a lot of us are seeing some decline in
Yeah.
productivity and quality of work. Does that mean we have to go back to work on site, brick and mortar? Or is that just the way things are now and we just need to staff more to achieve what we used to achieve with just X number of people?
Yeah.
The savvy HR person needs to be able to advise the organization using numbers, data, but at the same time, interpreting it through the lenses of humans
Yeah.
so that even if we look at numbers, our decision will not be wrong just solely coming out.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, sometimes I wonder that being an HR leader has to be like a great combination of left brain and right brain, and you really have to balance the
Right.
human and emotional side as well as the data and the analytics side of it. So having that right balance becomes like really really important. But I love that you are solving for productivity and performance, and also making the hybrid or the new work
Evolve.
environment like really works. So I think that's two great goals to like chase for. um in the middle of all this, there has been a recent, of course, like across the world, the buzzword is AI. I don't know
Yeah.
how much, I've heard this word across the internet and from people. Um, but have you come across any new innovations, or do you see in the coming few years newer technologies and AI shaping the future of HR or HR tech in the BPO industry? What are some observations that you have done?
So last year, after attending an annual conference in Vegas, not after, on the last day of that conference in Vegas, I hoarded for books. And one of those that I brought home, I actually needed to always be with me in each of my layovers because I just couldn't put the book down. This book was about AI in recruitment.
Okay.
And what it actually is making a case of is that we need lower barriers in recruitment these days. How many times have you seen an article, Pawan, where people are asking, where are the talents? Where had the talents gone? Right? It is so hard to recruit for quality people these days.
Yeah.
And what is AI if not to aid problems of humans,
Yeah.
right? What we can do differently using AI, learning from that book, is that there is such a thing as skills adjacency. When we say we need lower barriers to hiring, we're going to have to move beyond just looking at experiences, certifications, educational background, and what have you in a typical job description, right? But really breaking down, all right, using AI, what people can do next to what they do today. Let's take your case, for example, right? You were a quality engineer once in your life, and that was actually what you studied at school, right? That was like your career track, if you will, right? But you shared with me that you're also someone who's very creative.
Yeah.
Pawan, share to the audience, share with us, what do you do today?
I had marketing for Infido.
Marketing, from engineering to marketing, right? From left brain to right brain.
Yeah.
And how does that happen? One of the cornerstone of this AI solution were case studies, right? And in particular, there was a position that they used AI for,
Mm-hmm.
and that was sales for tech platforms.
Okay.
Initially, the companies that were using the product were looking at your typical sales experience, and if you need to sell a tech platform, typically you would want people from the brands, right? People that have been doing it before and have a great track record for selling such products, right?
Yeah.
What it did was, using AI, it actually looked into billions of data, okay, data of potential talents, right? And got cut the long story short, actually, people who had background in, you wouldn't guess this, in wine. The most successful tech salespeople of the companies that use this technology had the background of sommelier.
Okay. That's
Let's
it.
pause it. Very interesting, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does a sommelier do? A sommelier talks to you, you reach for the bar, you sit down, asks you what you are in the mood for. What
Hmm.
do you want? Right? Sometimes, even if it's not on the menu, just by listening to you, they begin to actually think about a drink that they can pour on your glass that will put
Yeah.
that smile on your face.
Yeah.
And then your peer comes or your friend comes, right? And if you like this, what do?
We recommend them that.
Friend asks you, what are you having?
Yeah.
You recommend it.
Yeah.
And the next time around, if you really had a good round of drinks, you're going to order for that. And
Yeah.
before you know it, that becomes a constant in the menu
Yeah.
because now it sells.
Yeah.
And so what they had seen there is that there's this basic ability of selling,
Yeah.
right? And the core skill there is to listen and empathize, pick
Yeah.
up, understand what the person truly wants and enjoys,
Yeah.
and follow that,
Correct.
right? It's
Yeah.
logical. We think about it.
Yeah.
So that's
Oh,
that's for recruitment. I think that if we have technology like that, and we can scale the use of that, we can solve for the problems where we do not have people with 10 years or so of experience in
yeah.
doing a certain kind of work.
Yeah.
Imagine using that and the amount of time that a headhunter can save.
Yeah.
Plus, I told you I'm a business partner, right? How much money in terms of compensation can a company save from having someone taking a shot at someone who has the innate ability to sell, right? Loading in training, downloading knowledge, product knowledge, right? And then after incubation, sending these talents out to
Yeah.
hunt for sales,
Yeah.
right? Just
Yeah.
imagine how much more cost efficient that is.
Yeah. No, I think
So that's
definitely.
the case of recruitment.
Yeah, I think so. This in terms of recruitment, but I'm sure in other aspects of the whole HR
Yeah.
function, there can be many
If
other
you give me some
technologies.
more time, yeah,
Of
let's
course.
delve into it. Um, Next to it is right now you already have the talents
Yeah.
inside the organization.
Yeah.
The thing about this generation, well, millennials, Gen Z, Gen A, is these people don't necessarily seek for promotion.
Yeah.
Many of us still do, right? But for the most part, it is growth, not promotion.
Yeah.
In fact, specifically, Josh Bersin called that out as something that is mastered by companies who are irresistible in his book, Irresistible, saying in this day and age and tomorrow, this is about growth and not promotion. So, how do you do that in your organization? You've got to have a systematized manner of people knowing how to go to your marketplace. It's marketplace now, right?
Yeah.
People would have to hunt for projects in an organization, right? Or every organization needs to innovate. So if you need to open a project, get a problem solved for your clients or your customers, it should work like how it works in Netflix, for example, where you have pods, right? And you have tribes consistent of pods where people can just, with their knowledge and experience, volunteer, be a part of the team, right? Solve a problem and then move on from there. Well, the
Yeah.
talent marketplace has to be aided by technology because it will take you forever to figure out who can participate in a project and even if they have the ability, who has the interest. If it's
Yeah.
the other way around, people volunteering because there's a place for them to be identified, to be hunted, and nudged, and then confirm that they want to be a part of this project,
Yeah.
then it works beautifully and systematically. It's also sustainable and scalable, right? And then, of course, retention only happens if people feel like they're at the right place.
Yeah.
The pulse of the people is something we cannot neglect, right?
Exactly.
We always have to know where the hearts and the minds of the people are. But I don't just mean employee satisfaction surveys. I mean to say, when we already know that someone's engagement is going down, we have to have a system of looking at, to your point earlier, what are the things that we can do, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we don't know it all. But having said that, AI is only going to be impacting if we use human insights too.
Yeah.
So, in the process of using all these technology that I just passionately talked about, let's say, for example, getting the pulse of people, right? Getting the engagement level of people, good old ways of doing your focus group discussions
Yeah.
are still very important because we can only interpret data if we look people in the eye, right? We see their muscles, facial muscles move and determine whether there's sincerity in the feedback that they give you or whether they're in pain. Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they mad? That's what sets us apart from
Yeah.
the bots and AI, right?
Yeah.
And from there, you have your data, you have your insights, you come up with something that makes sense. I'm
Yeah.
going to put it that way. It makes sense because it's human centric in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the future should be not just about AI, but human plus AI, so that it brings the best of the both worlds. The technology can take away the mundane task and save time and effort for the human, and the human brings the emotional quotient and emotional intelligence of it. So I think a human plus AI should be like the aim probably for the future. Um,
Absolutely. Agree.
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And of course, we've talked a lot about AI, and there was one other topic that I wanted to talk to you about, which was diversity and DNI basically. And I don't
Diversity,
want to ask
equity.
you the question that is it important for you or not, because definitely I think it is. And I've heard you on your previous podcast, on your LinkedIn, talking a lot about this. Um, but how are you really like? What's a differentiating factor about how you're fostering the culture of diversity and inclusion at Acquire? Like, is it something that you're doing differently from other HR leaders? What is that unique thing that you are doing?
So posters, training, they work, they don't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Um, those metrics, of course, those are the elementary ways of ensuring that we take care of diversity, equity, and inclusion in our organization, but not quite.
yeah,
Really, diversity, equity, and inclusion, they have to be here. That's the one thing I will say. Inclusion is a verb. Well, that's not what Webster Dictionary says. But inclusion and equity are the things that we do, and we better do it intentionally. Otherwise, it will not give us the result, which is diversity. So to me, diversity is the result of making people feel that they belong. That's what inclusion means, right? Um, Equity, treating people with fairness. It doesn't mean equally.
mm,
That is not real, right? Equality is close to panacea. Like, everything has to be within reason and there's rational for everything that we
yeah,
do, right? Not all wounds are actually in your chest. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's here. It really just depends on what the true situation is. And I was talking about listening earlier, right?
yeah,
Fairness and inclusion only happens if we're really having conversations with people, right? It only happens when we truly understand who, I'll say that again, who the people that we work with are. And it's only when we understand that, take that into consideration, create our policies, our processes, iterate our policies and our processes, evolve, glide through the changes of people around us, that it becomes real. I'll give you an example. In the Philippines, it's very traditional to give away ham, for Christmas.
yeah,
Yeah. Through time, manufacturers of these products actually started to introduce vegan products or chicken ham, right? Well, employees wanted that round ham, right? But recently, what we did was to give non pork eaters a
mm,
choice.
mm,
You're a non pork eater, no worries. You just tell us that you don't want pork, and we're going to give you a non pork ham. We looked for a supplier that can provide that.
mm,
That's inclusion, right? Because if I don't want
yeah,
to eat pork, I don't want to claim it and then give it to someone else,
yeah,
no matter how trendy it is.
yeah,
In your parties, another simple example is, when you do, let's say, best dressed, it
mm,
doesn't have to be binary only.
mm,
Why does it need to have a
yeah,
label? Fashion is fashion, no
yeah,
matter the gender. So those are, like, really simple ways, but in more structured ways, it's about ensuring that right from the get go of your recruitment, you
yeah,
focus only on skills and nothing else. In fact, I think blind recruiting will be a thing very soon in many industries, especially ours,
mm,
because it would have to be systematized such that we do not take a look at whether this is male or female, nursing graduate or whatnot, right? Age all the more, but just look at, can this person solve a problem? Can this person troubleshoot? Can this person speak the language
yeah,
that you are hiring for?
yeah,
Period.
yeah,
You don't need to know the name,
yeah,
right? Even. I think that day is coming.
yeah, yeah. So more focused on skills. Like, does this person have the skills to do this job rather than, okay, what surname or last name do they have?
Yeah.
Um, I think that would be a great, fair world to live in, and I hope that happens like very, very soon.
Oh,
Um, We have
I think it will. For industries that would like to really thrive in the future, we better
yeah.
adapt.
Yeah. So we have talked about technology, AI, diversity and inclusion, and a few other things, of course. Um, but I think it's great that they are there in strategy. But when you are implementing them in a bigger organization like 1,000 plus, 10,000 plus, 50,000 employee size organizations, there are of course practical challenges that come when you are executing these strategies. So like how do you employ how do you make sure that what are important philosophies and strategies for you, the managers, senior managers, directors, or even just like an intern also abides by it? How are you making sure that it's being followed by everybody? Are there any metrics or KPIs that you prioritize or that you're like focusing on? How do you see this in execution?
Sure. So, on a regular basis, performance is controlled by ensuring that number one, people know what the goals are,
Yeah,
right? There has to be goal setting. And I know that sounds super old school, right? But even if you're doing continuous performance management, you've got to set the goals and reset the goals if they change. People have to know what they are held responsible for. People also have to know what is good performance, what is great, and what is excellent. That has to be
yeah,
defined very clearly in your policy and in your processes, even when designing the tool, right? And the processes, whatever system you use. So, first of all, clarity and communication is important, right?
yeah,
Next to that is there has to be a clear scorecard, right? Picture the scorecard, and you know this as much as I do, right? You have your line items, you have your key performance indicators, and you have in there your targets. Sometimes they're expressed in the value that you need to achieve, sometimes they're expressed in terms of threshold,
yeah,
right? The key to making that happen is calibrating the targets with the people that are supposed to achieve those targets,
yeah,
right? And there's that delicate balance. If you make it too much in the favor of people that are in that position, then it becomes a joke because they would
yeah,
typically want it easy, right? And that's why there are non negotiable things when you go to the table and set expectations. Yes, there's a certain extent when you can be democratic about it, but we're running a business.
yeah,
Therefore, there are non negotiables that have to be very clear in the minds of the managers,
yeah,
right? So then now you've set the target, the person bought into it because he or she was part of it, right? There has to be a systematic way of capturing these information, right? They have to be recorded. It's got to be easy. Again, that is where I can see it already can come in. Microsoft already started to integrate their systems, right, with their Copilot. If you're on Windows 11, Fiber enables you to already do that.
yeah,
So I think it's just about working smart with the technology that's already existing, that we're already using, maybe a little bit of upgrade, but think about how to systematize that. But now that that's clear, there's one thing that I learned from a billionaire. His name's Ray Dalio, and this has stuck with me. And I always make sure I do it. Otherwise, I know I'll fail. Check in.
mm,
You have metrics already. Even your most trusted person, if left unsupervised, if you skip your check ins far too much, that person is either going to get lost,
yeah,
get too comfortable, or will just not pay attention
yeah,
because you're not paying attention either,
yeah,
right? So the check ins are very important, critically
yeah,
important, I would say, because they always need the guidance. And no matter how busy you are, Pawan, it's just literally as simple as, hey, this morning you raised there was a problem with a particular client. Give me a thumbs up. How's the progress? I
yeah,
advise you to do this. What did you do? You know, thumbs up, thumbs down,
Yeah.
and do not end your day for critical situations without doing your rounds and asking people thumbs up, thumbs down. We have a problem tomorrow, right? And if it's a huge undertaking, always have scenario planning. What could go wrong?
Yeah.
Decision trees. And recently what I've learned, we've got to upskill people on how they think too.
Mm.
So frameworks for critical thinking are important. Reminding them what are their resources is important. Don't be stuck with your stock knowledge, right? Check the policies, read them,
Yeah.
validate, and be aware of your own pitfalls. Like, do you have a problem with framing the problems? Because obviously, if you
Yeah.
frame the problem wrong, you're solving for the wrong problem and you'll still have the problem, even
Yeah.
if you actually worked on the problem, right? So, training your people to think critically so that, they don't always ask you what's next, and they could
Yeah.
just continue to work with the goals that you've set for them with you checking in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. And I have two important questions I want to ask before we end this conversation. And one of them is about the first goal that you have for this year, which is about productivity and performance. And I've spoken to a lot of HR leaders from Southeast Asia and, of course, from India and US as well. And most of them struggle with the problem of improving employee productivity. Of course, it has its own challenges of how to measure it and other things, but in between all these variables and complexities, how do you have a plan of how you're going to improve employee productivity and performance this year at Acquire? Have you created like a
Absolutely.
plan?
Absolutely. So, at any given point in time, I have placeholders for projects, Pawan. And to me, employee experience, we always hear that. It's not just about the benefits, the parties, the cupcakes that we give away monthly, or the merchandise that you give out to your new hires. Employee experience to me is a question of, am I living a good life with the time that I spend here in this company? To me, what that means is, am I bogged down with too much administrative work, using manual Excel spreadsheets, for example, all the time, and like there's no hope that I would ever be able to use more intuitive tools to actually just see performance, right? And anytime that I want to, 3 clicks and I'm there. um, Administrative tasks have to be streamlined, and I'm very conscious about this. Last year, we launched 3 projects targeted to lower in number of minutes the amount of time that were spent on the tasks that were targeted by those projects. Using technology to me is a lot of times HR's best friend. We just because historically we're in charge of admin work, and I super hate that, but it's always been that way with HR, right? And so for us to have a seat on the table, for us to use our time on more critical matters, right? It is about ensuring that, for example, our HRIS specialists don't have to put, data from 3 different sources just to come up with one report.
Yeah.
Those have to be there. And if it means doing an IPI between your systems, then that's what it is. If it means designing an import export daily, then that's what it is, right? I do have 2 projects lined up for this year to ensure that the heavily administrative tasks of my people can be lessened so that they spend more time with people, do their FGDs, do their one on ones, their coffee talks, and what have you, and give insightful contributions to the organization.
Got it. I am hearing all the keywords that we talk about and market about with our products. So it's it's just great that I'm hearing you're already at the forefront of how you're going to increase employee productivity, and that's like uh, great to hear about that. My other
And I think lesson I would like to add, if you'd let me.
yeah
A lot of the HR practitioners that I have met actually think that technological innovation is led by the chief technology officer of the
mm,
organization. Let's please break that belief.
yeah
That is not going to take any HR leader anywhere.
yeah
Um,
yeah
if I take a look at the number of times that I initiated a call to my chief technology officer, you would see I call him maybe twice in a week, in most weeks, because he and I talked. When I have this light bulb moment, I have an idea. This is the result that I want. What is our capability? And we together will ideate. Then he will assign a resource if he decides he wants to sponsor what I'm selling to him as a project, right? And then I get the resources. Then I hand it over to someone who reports directly to me, who volunteers to take on that project,
yeah
right? And off we go. That's why we had 3 successful project launch last year. It's because of that habit. I take it that
yeah
I'm personally responsible for making my ideas come to life by
yeah
looking for my own sponsors, right? Rationalizing why we need to do this and just getting it done. Just get it done.
yeah yeah. I think that innovation can come from anybody and not just the digital officer. I think uh,
Absolutely.
that's definitely important to understand. Um, my last question, and I think this I want to know this from you because a lot of customer facing organizations or industry or employees in general, right? Um, they face a lot of fatigue, like mental fatigue sometimes, and it can lead to burnout and just mental breakdown. Have you observed this in your industry? And if yes, like how have you kind of battled your way around it? How did you implement strategies to avoid these things within your people? Just want to know about that a little bit.
Absolutely. Of course, at the very basic, there's that in the West, you call it employee assistance program, right? In the Philippines, we do have those services in our HMO package, right? And so definitely there has to be access to professionals, right? But, the Philippines is short of clinical psychologists, and all the more psychiatrists. We're still reeling from that, and until we get there, here's what I think. I think we need to be there for each other when we need someone to make it through. And having that very basic belief, we came across here in Acquire. It was actually the idea of our CEO. This organization called Are You Okay? Are You Okay is a nonprofit organization in Australia. And what it does is to, for free, train people how to ask the question, Are you okay? And it's very methodical. It is, it continues to be iterated. You would see updates. All right. It's a big movement in Australia. What it does is to train people how to spot when a person seated beside you, someone you care about, it could be a friend, it could be your husband, your wife, anybody, your coworker, your supervisor, your manager. If you care about that person, you observe that person and you know the person. You
Mm,
know that something is wrong based on the behaviors of a person, right?
mm,
When an extroverted team member all of a sudden is most often quiet when everybody else is chit chatting, then it's probably time to check in. So it
mm,
tells you, it trains you on certain behaviors to look for telltale signs, right? And now, once you've seen that, because you know how to spot it already, it also trains you how to approach the person. It even trains
yeah,
you how to prepare for it. And
Yeah.
when you're already in that conversation, it tells you how to ask the questions and also helps you unlearn how not to ask questions.
Yeah.
Once you've already asked the question, it trains you how to absorb the answer and respond when you already need to. It teaches you how to listen. And most importantly, it also trains you how to take action through the person, him or herself,
Yeah.
and check back in. So it's a course that we give to all of our employees. They could opt in or they could attend the sessions that we regularly conduct free of charge. And we're actually looking at going to schools, to universities to actually train students on Are You Okay? Just to create further impact. Last year, what we did was to invite teenager children of our employees. So we opened up our pantry and we had about 150 children. When
Wow.
I say children, that includes teenagers that were trained on how to ask the question, are you okay? So slowly we are going out there and trying to help people help others. And we would like to scale it this year.
Wow. I am so excited by all the things that you're doing. I'm thinking about how can I be part of some of these, but we'll figure that out.
We'll
Uh,
figure that.
but my last question, okay, one small question, because I want to end this on a lighter note. Um, what is something that you would give like your 20-year-old some advice after years of experience that you have gathered right now? What is something that you, if you can tell to your 20-year-old self, what would that would be?
Um, that we are all in this together. There are people that you can lean into. There are resources that can help you. Sometimes even a stranger can actually help you. Things are heavier than they really are because we think we're solely responsible for the problem that we have. But actually, if we only take a step back and inventory all the resources that we have, there are actually solutions. So my younger self should have been less of drama, you know, and someone who just takes the punch, rolls with it, but with the help of others, because that's what makes us human, to need people and to be needed by people.
Yeah, I think that's a great note to end on, that we need people, and not just at work but of course in life as well. I think human connection is what really makes us human. So I'm glad that that's a great note to end this on. But Ivy, thank you so much. I didn't realize when
Thank
we spent 40-50 minutes, and I think that's about great conversations. You don't realize when the time passes by. But I'm glad everybody who's going to listen to this, they're going to have multiple takeaways from this. In fact, I myself, the book that you were mentioning about, and the event that you attended in Vegas, and all those things, I'm going to go back to it and really think about all these things. And yes, next time when I'm in Manila, I'm gonna try to meet you and do non-work conversations, maybe. Uh,
sure. Over
really,
coffee
I
or,
would
you know, with a sommelier. Let's test that out.
definitely would want to know about aesthetics, leather bags, leather belts, and so many other things that, and of course, calorie counts and fitness routine that you're. So
Sure,
definitely a
sure.
lot of other things to also catch up on. But thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you
This
too.
was great, and I would be in touch with you about when this goes live.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Pawan. You have a great day.